Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammā sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammā sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammā sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. Luang Por Ganha is a very senior Thai monk who he became a samanera at a very young age, and then he ordained as soon as he could. He took the bhikkhu upasampada ordination. And he's really quite an exceptional person, was an exceptional person right from the start, really. He's related to Ajahn Chah. His father was Ajahn Chah's brother, so he's Ajahn Chah's nephew. Recognise that closeness to the teacher is not the important thing. Physical closeness to the teacher isn't the important thing. The important thing is practicing in the way that the teacher is inviting us to practice. And when we do that, we are close to the teacher. And the Buddha said, you can be right next to me holding on to my robe, but if you're not practicing well, then you're far from me. On the other hand, he would send people away and never see them again, to teach, to live in different parts of what's now India. And he would say, well, you'll always be close to me if you're practicing my teachings. I'm always with you. So this is really quite inspiring, and this is part of the talk that was given on this birthday of Luang Por Ganha, with the very same teaching. We may not be able to gather, but not a problem. We have the Buddha's teachings. We can manage very well without the proximity to our teachers. We can still do the practice. Well, nowadays, of course, we've got the internet. So we are very fortunate in this age that we have the ability to meet like this, to meet online. Quite remarkable. Luang Por Ganha, when he was a very small boy, he lived in a small village in rural Thailand with his family, of course. He had an older brother who was 12 years older than him. His brother was the oldest of the children in the family, his oldest sibling, and he was also the breadwinner of the family. He got sick, and actually he died at the age of 18. So Luang Por Ganha was only 6 years old when he lost his oldest brother. And he was very, very affected by this, both his brother's passing and also his mother's terrible suffering at losing her oldest son. She was distraught. From that point, he had a very strong sense of urgency, saṁvega in Pali, and in also Thai they use this word, saṁvega, this sense of urgency, this sense of disillusionment with the way things are, because he already had this experience, as many do, of losing a loved one at a very young age. So he realised that this is happening all around, this is happening to everybody at some point. And it just dawned on him very fully, the human predicament, our mortality. And from that time on, he wanted to be a monk. And he was lucky, because living in Thailand, that was an option. It was something he knew about and something that was a possibility for him. He knew that. And so he really gravitated towards this ambition, if you like, ambition to become a bhikkhu, to practice for liberation. This quality of saṁvega, again in relation to the Buddha himself. And there's many embellishments around the core teachings of the Buddha. Many stories, like the Jataka tales, that come from perhaps even more ancient traditions, but they're often very interesting and even helpful for practice. We don't have to take them as gospel, as the word of the Buddha, but these stories can be quite enlightening at times. And there's a story of the Buddha way, way back, eons ago, in a human birth. As a young man, a trader, he and his mother worked together, And at this time there was no Buddha's teaching, there was no Dhamma teaching, there was no religion, no religions, and people didn't really know quite how to behave. So there wasn't a sense of right and wrong. So it's very clear for us nowadays. Perhaps there are times when it's not so clear to human beings what's right and what's wrong, how to behave. But despite the fact that there was a lot of ignorance and there was no real guidance available, this young man was really devoted to his mother. And it so happened that they went on a sea journey with all their goods, going to make some big deal somewhere else. They had all their possessions, all their goods. They were going on this journey across the ocean, and unfortunately, the ship was wrecked. Fortunately, it wasn't too far from land, a few miles. They had to jump ship, and so did everybody else. And this young man carried his mother on his back and managed with huge effort to swim to the shore and rescue both himself and his mother. While this was going on in his mind, he developed this strong sense of urgency, of saṁvega, because he could see all around him people floundering in the ocean and drowning right in front of him, and he couldn't save them because he already had the mother on his back, and that was all he could handle. And so he watched all the others perishing. He was the only one, being strong and young, he was the only one who actually made it to the shore, him and his mother. And this was, in this tale, this was the impulse, this was the strong sense of urgency that started his bodhisattva vow. So at this point he made a vow that there's so much suffering, human beings are all destined to die. May I find a way to relieve the suffering of all human beings, of all beings. May I find a way out of this cycle of birth and death. And even though it was not a conducive time, having made this vow, it was such a strong determination in his mind that he actually kept coming back again and again. And this vow, this mental sankhara, this mental volition, continued through life after life after life. And it was only after many eons that he actually made it known to others that he'd taken this vow. So it was a very private intention, strongly rooted in the citta, in the mind, in the heart. And it took him through many, many eons. And then later, he began to voice this vow. It was unconscious or subconscious to some degree, and then it became conscious and continued to propel the bodhisattva forward through many, 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 almost countless lifetimes, many eons, until he became Sumedha. And Sumedha, we know the story of a young man called Sumedha, who was in India at the time of a previous Buddha. Dipankara Buddha was the name of this Buddha. Again, so far back in time we have no records of these things. Back in mythical time. Dipankara Buddha, fully enlightened Buddha, previous Buddha to the Buddha that we know, Gautama Buddha, he met this young man, Sumedha, who was the bodhisattva, and he could see immediately, this person has made this vow, has this strong vow, it's carried this mind, this heart through so many eons of time. Here he is. And he announced to everybody who was present that this young man is going to be the next Buddha, is going to be a future Buddha, rather. He named the Buddha's companions in this dispensation, Sariputta Moggallana, the two bhikkhuni, Khema, Upalawana, the bhikkhuni senior disciples, and Ananda, his attendant. So he made this elaborate prediction, but it wasn't until many, many, many more eons had passed that Sumedha actually became Siddhartha Gautama. So there we are, this incredible story of the power of intention, significant to consider, to contemplate. because whether the stories are true or not, they're believed actually by millions of Buddhists, in Asian countries, or at least given a lot of attention. There's a lot of wholesomeness in that, because we can recognize certain things from these stories. We can recognize the importance of our intention, of setting our mind in the right direction, and how powerful that is. Whether we're reborn or not, whether it carries through into another rebirth and another rebirth, who knows? I don't know. But what I do know is that if I set my intention now for the wholesome, for good, to practice, to free the heart from suffering, then that has a significance, and that does carry through. It carries through from now to the next, to the next, to the next moment. And so I think I'll say a few words now about effort, right effort, Sammā Vāyāma. There's a reason for the order of these path factors. First, we have to have the wisdom, the understanding to some degree. We don't have to fully comprehend the Buddha's teachings, but we want to take in his teachings on the Four Noble Truths and just let them inform us and begin to develop that kind of compass pointing to Nibbana. With right view and right intention, we're setting the scene, as it were, reminding ourselves again and again, this is what I'm doing here. This is what Buddhist teachings are about. This is the direction the practice needs to move in. So just taking on board the Four Noble Truths, right intention. And then we recognize the importance of having a peaceful mind, a happy heart. How do we get to have a happy mind and a happy heart? Through virtue. We can have good conditions around us, conducive conditions, but actually what's going on inside can be something quite different, not necessarily so lovely. Or, we can be in miserable, poor, physically difficult situations, and yet inside us there can be a real warmth and glow and happiness and radiance. It's not about the external conditions. They may have some degree of significance. For instance, if we're starving, it's very difficult to practice. We can still practice, but it's more difficult. If we're thirsty, if we're roasting because it's so hot where we are, very difficult. So it's very fortunate to have good condition, basic, something to eat, somewhere to sleep, some degree of comfort around us in terms of the fire element, the temperature, the climate. But a lot of our happiness, the majority in any moment, really comes from within. So therefore, we need to really develop the inner resources through virtue, through right speech, right action and right livelihood. I can't overstress the importance of these because they are the foundation that we stand upon. They're our resting place. They're what goes with us when we die. They're what we bring into this world with us. So these aspects of our life, we really want to keep giving attention to how we can polish and purify and increase the goodness that we experience through skillful speech, skillful action, and good livelihood as much as we can. Do work that benefits others. Find ways. Even if our jobs are fairly divorced from others or dissociated from others, then find ways in our spare time to be generous, be kind, think of others, put others first. And then we can start to meditate. It's interesting how many Western folk, non-Buddhists I should say, come into Buddhism through the interest in meditation. That was what happened for me. I had no idea about the Eightfold Path, but I just wanted to meditate. And yet, what we soon discover is how difficult it is to meditate if the mind is agitated. And what really agitates the mind is the sense of not feeling good about ourselves, feeling remorse or feeling regret or feeling guilty about things that have happened in the past, or even in the present behaving in ways that just produce this sense of self-loathing even. And so we can very quickly start to recognize that there's other aspects of practice that are also really important. So to do good, to avoid harm, these two steps are essential before we then start to purify the heart. So having given that long preamble about the first 5 path factors, I'll now come back to the 6th path factor, right effort. So right effort, we can then start to really direct our energy. When we're sitting, having a daily practice of actually giving time for meditation, we're then able to really bring up all our energy and apply it to developing mindfulness. So how do we make the right effort? And it's really beautiful actually for me that the summary the Buddha would often give for right effort relates so much to what I've just been saying, to the other path factors. So he said, if you have some wholesome qualities, some good qualities, then grow them further. Water the seeds, give them all the nourishment that you can. So grow goodness, grow the good qualities. He said, if there are any good qualities that you hear about, you don't have yet, you recognize, actually, I'm quite stingy. If I get something nice to eat, I just want to gobble it down as quickly as I can, have it all myself. If we have that kind of mind, that's not unusual. With any particular material things, if we like to hoard and we like to relish various things, just recognizing that is wonderful. And then to see how we can work with that and develop more generosity, more giving. So if there's any qualities, say generosity or any other wholesome qualities that we haven't really cultivated, we're not really manifesting yet, then we have an opportunity to bring them up, bring them to life. Go against the grain. It's like going against our natural inclinations, which we have been taught, which we've learned. It's like people who have grown up in any kind of situation where there's a lack of anything, then it's very natural to want to hold on to stuff. So it's not about feeling that we're lacking or that we're wrong. No, it's just the conditioning is such that we may have a sense of needing to conserve, preserve, hold on to our energy in one way or another. But the Buddha's encouraging us, well, if there's anything that's a bit stuck there, any beneficial qualities that have just not been able to grow because of the conditioning that we have, because maybe we didn't experience that in our family life or in our culture, then let's see if we can produce, develop, and grow these good qualities. So there really is a sense of going against the grain, and effort is required, right? The effort to change, to redirect our energies and focus on the good and how we can keep developing more and more. There's no limit, actually, really, is there, to this? Remembering that, I'm not talking about going out of your way constantly and getting completely burned out. I'm not talking about that, because the good, the development of the wholesome, also, of course, relates to this one. And this one actually has to come first. There's no other way round. It's not selfishness, it's just pragmatic to look after this one. So bring in the wholesome qualities and take care of this one. Be generous to this one. And then that you get the overspill of it, where the generosity can just pour out, because there's such a wellness here. There's such a sense of well-being. So to be kind to ourselves is the first way, actually, for many people, of bringing up wholesomeness, bringing up wholesome qualities, because a lot of people are not very kind to themselves, are they? Again, that's just our conditioning. It's our conditioning to be quite self-judging, self-blaming, self-critical. So we can look at that and see how we can work against that, using right effort bring up a sense of well-being, wish ourselves well. Generosity starts at home. It starts here. And then, when we're nourished, we're resourced, we have a sense of well-being. Now, how can I serve others? What can I do for others? And then we start to recognize that the joy and the happiness come from selflessness, helping, serving, thinking of others. It's the biggest joy. We have to experience that to know that. Just keep letting go of the sense of self and just directing the attention toward the bigger picture. So growing wholesome qualities such as generosity, kindness, right speech, speech that encourages, speech that harmonizes. Let go of any speech that does not beneficial. And right action. What can I do today to bring more happiness into the field? And so on. And on the other side of right effort, so there's the effort to increase the wholesome, and then the effort to reduce the unwholesome. So the Buddha was saying to notice where we have faults, flaws, unskillful ways of behaving, and just to look at that, almost in an impersonal way, almost in a clinical way. Oh yes, there's anger. There's anger in the mind. Certain things happen and I start to feel annoyed. Ooh, yeah, that's painful. That's uncomfortable. So how to bring in effort to let that fade, let that pass. And working with anger, to be patient, to bring in loving kindness, not to act or speak when there's any kind of anger in the mind. This all takes great effort. This is right effort. So the right effort to see the unwholesome qualities when they arise and to be willing to let them go. Work with them in such a way that we can watch them fade away. And then the fourth kind of right effort is if there's any unwholesome qualities that we're aware of, often through our study of the Dhamma or our interactions with other people, any unwholesome qualities, actually I don't have that quality. I'm not a jealous type. I'm fortunate that way. I just don't envy other people. But I can see that that does arise for people, and I can see how that manifests in the world. If I don't have this quality, let me make very sure that I don't develop it. There are all sorts of qualities, unwholesome qualities, I may not really have a lot of. If I'm not seeing that here, but I'm seeing it there, friends are telling me about issues they're having. I don't have that kind of an issue. But if they're experiencing this, then I know I could. So let me be very mindful and conscious about this quality and let it not grow in me. Don't let it get rooted. Don't give it any energy. And in the same way, of course, right effort can extend into the wider field, and we can help others in the very same way. Just as with virtue, we want to not just maintain and support and grow virtue for ourselves, but also encourage others in any ways that we can, skillfully, encourage others to practice virtue. And we should also praise virtue whenever there's an opportunity to bring it in, praise and make much of it. It helps everybody else to do that. Virtue is a bit of an old-fashioned word, isn't it? It's not like you go to a party and start chatting about virtue with everybody. But you know, there are ways in the contemporary language, in the culture that we're in, we find ways. Consider yourselves to be ambassadors of Dhamma, daughters and sons of the Buddha. Have in mind this intention to share the good. And in the same way with right effort, we can practice right effort in terms of the way the Buddha told us to practice it. Develop the good, let go of the harmful. And we can also encourage others to do the same. And we can praise right effort whenever there's an opportunity to do that. What is worth putting energy into and what is worth not. Right effort is both in the development of the wholesome and the letting go, the obliteration of the unwholesome. And sometimes it takes a bit more than just letting go. If unwholesome thoughts, feelings, volitions arise, then it can take quite a lot of effort sometimes to just contain them. Just contain them is enough. That's enough. Sometimes that's all we can do. Just hold in check. And then over time, with patience, the strong negative volitions will slowly fade. So there is great effort involved in letting go of the unwholesome too. It's an energetic process, right? And now I want to say a few words about meditation, because of course in meditation there's also the need to apply, to bring in energy, to bring in effort, right effort. And the Buddha talked about the 5 friends, the indriyas. There are 5 qualities. He said these are like real friends of meditation. So there's the 5 hindrances, the 5 seeming enemies of meditation, which actually, if we are conscious of them, can become quite good friends also, because they help us to move forward on the path through our letting go of them. But there's also these 5 friends, and they are faith, saddha, wisdom, panya. Think about the first 2 path factors. Wisdom, mindfulness, sati, another path factor. And wisdom and faith are like a pair. They kind of work together. They kind of need to balance each other out. You can just consider wisdom and faith, 2 different, very different qualities. Good if they're balanced. Sati is like the central point. Sati is like the head, and wisdom and faith are like the arms, moving us forward. And then the legs that propel us forward. Again, 2 qualities that balance one another, and they are concentration, samadhi, focus, stillness. And the other is effort, energy, virya in Pali. Effort and energy as an important friend in our meditation practice, and balanced with stillness, with peace, with calm. So it's quite interesting. There's calm available to us at times, maybe, and there's energy available to us at times, maybe. But the important thing is that when we're practicing meditation, we need to be able to be aware of these and to just get the right balance between them. There's some beautiful similes in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the first chapter. It's the chapter of verses. And there's a verse in there where a deva comes to visit the Buddha to ask for some advice. This happened a lot. The Buddha spent his daytime with the humans, teaching human beings far and wide. And then most of the night was spent teaching the devas, teaching the gods, beings in different realms who could hear the Dhamma. So the deva comes to visit the Buddha in the night, bringing great radiance, great light, lighting up the entire grove where the Buddha's sitting. And asks the question, how do I get the right balance in my practice? And the Buddha said, it's like a person who's trying to cross a river. And it's shallow, it's not too high, you could just about get across. How to get across that river? If you make too little effort, he said, then you're going to get cold, you're going to get tired, you're going to get swept away, you're not going to get across. If you make too much effort, you're going to burn out, expend your energy before you've managed to get to the other side, and you'll get swept away equally. So in this simile we can see that invitation is to make just the right effort to sustain the journey, to sustain the crossing. In another simile the Buddha talks about a lute, or say a fiddle, stringing the fiddle, tuning the fiddle to get the right note. He said, not too tight, no, it's going a bit sharp, not too loose, too flat. You have to get it just so, just so. And in the same way, the aspect of right energy that I'm pointing to is the ability to gauge it just right, get it just right. And it's actually a really marvellous thing, because when we focus on this in our practice, focus on the energy in the body, in the mind, we can actually tweak it. We can actually see how, at times, if I just bring my attention to how is the energy right now, I can notice, am I a bit slumped over? Am I a bit sleepy? Am I sagging a bit mentally or physically? Just noticing. To notice is everything, because once we pay attention to the energy in the body, the adjustment almost happens naturally. The body will just adjust itself. We'll bring in a bit more energy. How do we bring in a bit more energy? Breathe a bit deeper. We straighten up. When I pay attention to energy in the system, I can notice that when the body slumps forward, you lose energy. The mind isn't as clear. It's almost as if the circulation or the energy systems in the body are not aligned anymore, and the mind starts to get duller and duller. And then, of course, what's the inevitable result of that? What's really helpful is to notice when that's starting to happen. So personally, when I'm meditating, I'm bringing in this just little thought of how is it now in terms of energy. And oftentimes I find I have to straighten back up. Just straightening up, just straightening the spine and sitting upright. Instant energy. It's amazing. And then a couple of deep breaths. And if it's still flagging a bit, then a little bit of movement. Just wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes. It gets the system rebooted, revamps the system. So it's worth paying attention to this, because for a lot of people in the meditation practice there can be dullness, there can be sleepiness, sloth and torpor. It's that hindrance, and how to work with that hindrance. Energy, effort, bringing it in. Sometimes there's too much energy. On the other hand, we can be agitated and restless, that hindrance again. It's the balance between the two hindrances, sleepiness and restlessness. The balance between the two friends is mirroring that. Focus, stillness and energy. So this is really what we're working with, honestly, all the time. It's a bit like walking on a tightrope meditation. If we see it like that, we'll keep meditating very well, because it's very alert. Imagine on a tightrope, you have to be so mindful not to fall off. And there's this balancing act going on all the time between wisdom and faith, and also between energy and stillness. So noticing when there's too much energy, the mind's restless, the body's agitated. What's needed? Bring in the calm, get the balance right. Energy's going up, so calm needs to come up as well. So we need to develop samadhi. Let the stillness grow, and it's totally within our reach. The path factor of right effort leads to right mindfulness, the next path factor. And the final path factor is right samadhi, right stillness. But actually you can see how these three meditation factors all work together. And there's the balance right there. Right samadhi, right effort. They need each other. They're essential for right mindfulness. So these three kind of circle around one another, help one another, and it's helpful to bring them to mind. Bring effort to mind and see where you're at with it. Because not only on the cushion, not only on the chair meditating, but in life, we can watch the interplay of focus and energy. Going for a walk, at work, in the family, cooking the meal, cleaning the house. What's the balance here? One of my teachers, Ajahn Chah, he said once, when you're doing anything at all, he said, don't put 100% effort in. 50% effort, 50% focus. If we can do whatever we're doing at any time, any situation, just remember, yes, effort's involved, there's energy involved here, but let there be peace. 50-50. It's quite interesting to see how that plays out. Consider right effort. Consider the four aspects, bringing up the wholesome, letting go of the unwholesome, and consider how you can bring right effort into the meditation practice, bring it to mind, and see how it can help with our sitting, walking, focusing, developing mindfulness. Ewan.
Handamayam Dhammasataya Satam Karanda Dhammasaya